And then you've got to make sure you give them the needles or the tin foil or the boofing kit to be able to take their drug of choice. Do you know what a boofing kit is?
No.
You shouldn't. If you did, I'd be concerned. It's when people want to take their drugs rectally.
How is it going? I mean, it seems like it's tight.
It shouldn't be a hard one. It's $9 billion. It's 1/10% of all federal spending.
Zach, hello. We will, of course, talk about what's happening with the DOGE recissions package coming up. But I want to talk about tariffs first. So Trump came out. He teased this big announcement and threatened additional tariffs. So threatened 100% secondary tariffs on Russia over the war in Ukraine. It sounds like from reading like Russia, propaganda, that they expected it to be worse. Like Trump gave them 50 days, which is an eternity. And they expected that the tariffs would come down much sooner than that. And so maybe they feel like they have some time to respond and get some other sort of negotiating in. But in this case, this isn't about, to me, it's a totally separate sort of tariff situation because the other ones have been about, trying to make sure America is treated fairly. This is about trying to get Russia to get out of Ukraine. So I don't know if at this point are 100% secondary tariffs enough motivation for Russia to get out of Ukraine.
Well, I don't know that Russia has, when you look at what Russia's attempting to do, I don't know if there's any kind of leverage you can put against them that would give them an honest incentive to get out of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Where that situation gets interesting is what type of ancillary pressure does that put on them, right? Like Russia can't tick off everybody in the world, right? I mean, they need people too. So the real threat of those secondary tariffs is what kind of pressure would that turn on them? And you just got to, this Russia, well, like so many other issues we face today, this whole Russia-Ukraine thing is just exhausting because Putin's not leaving. Ukraine is not getting back that piece of land that existed, certainly not because Russia is going to cede it to them, that existed prior to this whole shakeup, right? That boat has sailed. Ukraine has zero incentive to give in. You know what I mean? So you're looking at this situation where truly it's a Mexican standoff. I mean, it's the definition.
Yeah, so he's doing the tariff thing, but then he also announced, more weapons help to Ukraine. And, there are people who have been curious whether Donald Trump would take a harder line on Russia, whether he'd be willing to continue to support Ukraine, because there's been a lot of consternation among conservatives about just how much money Ukraine has gotten while we have other issues here at home. So I guess that's your answer. He's threatening tariffs and he's sending more weapons to Ukraine. So we'll see what happens there.
But I do think it's important to point out that the announcement of the new, at least from where I heard it with Ukraine, was Patriot missiles, which are inherently defensive, right? Like that's not so, I do think that that's an important thing to, right? You can't accuse, him sending them those missiles is not an escalation in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, Putin thinks so. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think Putin's probably just happy that we didn't send him some bunker busting. You know what I mean? I don't think he's too worried about that.
Yeah, and we've been sending them stuff anyway. So, all right. So we've been talking about sort of expanding DOGE, looking at spending in other places of the country that maybe could use a little bit of government efficiency. So I've got a doozy out of Portland. So you and I both are believers in the homeless industrial complex. Totally a thing. They're spending more money to get worse results. And there was this study that came out. Does this number surprise you? In fiscal year 2024, Portland, if you combine the federal money that went into it, state money, county, city, $700 million spent on the homeless crisis in Portland. $700 million.
It doesn't surprise me at all. And I will guarantee you this, there are a lot of bureaucrats and there are a lot of friends and family of bureaucrats that have made really nice chunks of money off that whole thing.
100%.
That is a gravy train. And whenever you see levels of government spending like that with virtually no benefit on the other side, you do not need to be an auditor or a CPA to figure out where that money went.
Well, right? and it says, some of the line items for administrative costs, hundreds of millions of dollars of that went to administrative costs, right? So that shows you that there, administrative costs. But then, of course, so that's $200 million additional dollars from 2023. So just over the course of a year, they spent $200 million more. And what do you think happened to the homeless population? Did it decrease or increase?
Oh, well, I mean, it had to go down.
Right?
Naturally.
Yeah, no,
right.
It went way up. And it's at record
Weird.
levels. It's horrible. So I've got to play you this clip. So there's this guy named Kevin Dahlgren, and he works with the homeless down there, and he's like a sane person, right? So he gets these numbers, does the math, 700 million divided by like 22,000 homeless people. So he goes up to a homeless guy, and the homeless guy is actually like far more intelligent than any of these politicians making this decision. And you just see the look on this guy's face as Kevin explains how much money, quote unquote, Portland is spending per homeless person. Here it is.
Social services spent $97,000 per homeless person to get you guys off the streets. 97,000. Yeah.
That can't be true because there's more and more people becoming homeless on the streets.
Yes, homelessness increased over the last year.
Yeah, I know. I see new faces almost every other day.
So then where the hell's the money going?
Honestly, I heard something last year. They said last year, maybe 1 to 2 mil came up missing, and I don't think $1 to $2 million comes up missing. Somebody took that shit, and they say we're the problem, but yet they want to take away our resources to help fix the problem.
But
that doesn't make any damn sense.
And that's an obscenely high number per homeless person, which means $97,000 was applied to helping you off the streets.
No, they don't give a shit about us.
So how much money do you think was spent on you in the last year?
Zero. None. I mean, well, okay, maybe $50 on some, burgers and hot dogs that they came and, gave us in the park. Other than that, none.
So $90,000 per homeless person, this homeless guy, who he really seems to be, I don't know what's going on with him, but he's calculating in his head. He's like, what? The only thing he can think of that was spent on him directly, like to help his circumstances, is some hot dogs in a park.
There's so much grift, and the insulting, frustrating part about it is how naked and obvious it is.
Yep.
Right? Like this feels a lot to me. There's definitely some serious correlations between this and the whole marijuana thing, the whole marijuana industry.
Yes.
And it's a system that the minute I saw it, I had a good friend of mine who developed a really impressive, reputable farm, a marijuana growing farm. And I wasn't an investor. I wasn't involved in anything. It's not my kind of thing. But I helped him structure an investment into it. And as soon as all the rules came down, and you saw the regulations around it, I remember looking at it and going, wait a second. Why would you structure this way? This makes no sense unless you're trying to get untoward people, unless you're trying to turn this into another big business, right? Meaning when you look at just the regulatory and the tax structure around the marijuana thing, it makes no, like you look at it and you go, okay, the people who are taxed the heaviest are the farmers who have to make the biggest capital investment. So literally the people that are putting on the most risk have to pay 50% off the top to the state, then pay personal income taxes on top of that. Wow. Right? And it's not a perfect correlation, but what I'm saying is I think we have these programs in front of us that we all accept as being one thing. And I don't think they're those things at all.
No.
I don't think they were even intended to do what they're stated to do. And quite honestly, I think a good chunk of the elected officials that voted on that aren't even aware of what's really going on, right? Like, I mean, there's some that are, but there's some that aren't, that are just blissfully ignorant and just, we're helping homeless people. And you're like, well, you're not.
Well, look at like all the new revenue streams. We both live in Washington State, but the same could be applied to like Oregon and California. So right now we've got Bob Ferguson going across the state saying, oh my gosh, we're in a dire fiscal situation, $14 billion deficit. It's going to get worse because the federal government's one big beautiful bill, all this stuff. So if you think just within the last 10 years, So marijuana was made legal, and remember they said that would be a cash cow for the state. Like, we won't ever need, we're going to make so much money off of it. Where is all that money? Like, where's all that money going, right? It doesn't feel like we got a windfall off of anything.
No,
right?
I mean, you mean other than to the Chinese mafia?
Yeah, probably part of that. And
Yeah,
then
I mean, they're getting a lot of it.
you look at the Climate Commitment Act, right? They've made $4 billion in 2.5 years off the Climate Commitment Act. Okay, where's all that money going? The capital gains tax. They've brought in hundreds of millions of dollars off the capital gains tax. And then you look at all this money coming in for homelessness, et cetera, and now we're supposed to believe you even despite all those new revenue streams, we can't pay for the basic stuff? Like, I just watched a presentation the other day about the State Department of Transportation doesn't have money to fix bridges, and some of them might have to be closed down. It's like, whoa. I thought we came up with all these new revenue streams. So the money is just padding people's pockets at this point.
Well, and remember, this was a state that had a surplus in 2019.
Yep.
Didn't it?
Well, they blamed COVID. Oh, that's right. What happened to it? COVID ruined everything.
Yeah, and this is the big problem, and I'm not the only one that said it, and I think we talked about it at the time. This is what always scares me about emergency spending measures. They never quit.
Yep.
Right? If you're listening to Bob Ferguson and you're trying to take him serious, and he does not attempt to even address the fact that they have not substantially cut their budget since 2021.
Yeah.
What on earth are you doing? Those were all emergency measures, and they were being paid for mostly by injections of federal money. That money's gone now. Yeah. You've got to cut your spending back. You need to stay at emergency levels of spending, and this is the problem. And this is the untoward, motivation in so many different elected offices now, where you're going, it isn't about the budget. It's about power. They're not going to shrink their budget because that's to shrink their power. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of us sit around and look at the nuts and bolts of it and go, the numbers don't add up. What are these people doing? They're not making irrational decisions. They're just playing a completely different game. Yep. Right? That's not their concern. They don't worry about this is all about political power and getting rich. And that's all it's about. If they tell you it's something else, they're lying.
Well, right. You look at like Senator Reuben Carlisle was a state senator in Washington state, and he was the architect of the Climate Commitment Act. What did he do after the Climate Commitment Act passed? Well, he went out and he went into the climate private sector, and now his company's making millions of dollars off the Climate Commitment Act. And I think the true travesty in all of this, going to the homeless thing and everything, is the voters not being able to put really simple pieces together. This is like a two-part puzzle. It's like you open up the puzzle box and you dump out two pieces. You just have to put them side by side, and the voters can't figure it out. And I think the media has a lot to do with that. But if you truly care about the homeless, you should want to see results. You should want accountability for every dollar that should be helping people on the streets and isn't. But I guess in the name of like political allegiances, there's no eagerness to call them out.
Well, where there is opacity, there will be grift, right? Yep. And so again, I just think we're asking them something, it's like, we're like, hey, well, these numbers aren't adding up. Where's the money? And they're kind of looking at us going, you don't understand what we're trying to do here, do you? Right? Like for instance, when you looked at their whole plan to attack homelessness, and the plan they came up with was going to require, what was it, like $1 million per house to build? Remember those homeless?
Yep.
The minute I see that, I go, okay, that's not a serious plan. This is grift. Right? Why? Because any number of contractors could have done it for fractions of that cost. Mm-hmm. Right? So why are they not? And this is the thing, and this to me is not a partisan issue. This is the thing that voters everywhere need to wake up for. And there's plenty of grift on both sides of the aisle. But you need to start engaging your common sense and saying, if it's too complicated for us to understand, it's on purpose. Yep. There's a reason for that. Yeah. And it's you can always tell, because these things always come with more complexity, not less. Yeah. And nobody, and you can't figure this stuff out if you're not paying attention to it every single day. And like I said, a lot of the people that are involved in it that are benefiting from it, I don't even think a lot of them fully understand what's going on.
Well, and to your point, they do make it too complicated to follow. And I think part of that is government bureaucracy. Like, for instance, they have these organizations that are paid and they go out and their job is to connect people with services and to get them out of homelessness. So they might get someone an affordable apartment, but then there's no more tracking of that person. So they put it on, they write down, oh, yep, we got somebody out of homelessness. But you don't know if a week later that person went back to the street and is high on fentanyl, because they don't follow through. So they're just going to write down what they need to write down in order to keep the money coming in. They don't actually care if those people are out of homelessness or not, as long as they can check a box and keep money coming in. So it's just crazy.
Well, and I think you make a really good point. And again, you see this all over the culture, right? Confusing symptoms with causes.
Yeah.
But for 95% of homeless people out there, the homelessness is a symptom. Go ahead and stick them in a house. They're still homeless. They're still going to be a disaster. Yeah, they're going to be. The issue is not I swear to God, we've taken stupid pills, right? We don't have all these homeless people because housing's too expensive or they decided they didn't like doors and windows.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not why you have a bunch of homeless people. You have a bunch of homeless people because they're addicted and they're mentally ill.
Yeah.
Okay, so why are we talking about building brand new houses for drug addicts and people that are mentally ill? If you want to be compassionate, let's figure out ways to get these people off the streets and treated.
No, that's evil. Can't do that. You can't criminalize addiction, Zach. You can't make someone feel bad about their addiction. So you have to leave them to die.
Well, no. What you got to do is you got to buy fentanyl-free heroin and hook them up with safe smack.
Yep. And then you've got to make sure you give them the needles or the tin foil or the boofing kit to be able to take their drug of choice. Do you know what a boofing kit is?
No.
You shouldn't. If you did, I'd be concerned. It's when people want to take their drugs rectally. And there are safe supply organizations that will provide a boofing kit so you can get that high to where it needs to go faster. And that is your government at work. With that, back to the other Washington for our Doge Miss of the Week. So the Senate looks like it is going to pass President Donald Trump's DOGE rescissions package. Real close, cutting it real close. But I gotta say, I'm frustrated with how political all this has gotten. So a couple days ago, President Trump tweeted a threat to Republicans who don't support it. He says, it's very important that all Republicans adhere to my rescissions bill and in particular defund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Any Republican that votes to allow this monstrosity to continue broadcasting will not have my support or endorsement. So look, I get it. This is important to him. It's his agenda. He wants them, especially into the midterms, to adhere to it. But I think when it becomes sort of a threat kind of thing and a mandate, I just think it's going to continue to sort of push people in the other direction, especially some of the Republicans whose votes he needs.
Yeah, although I will say this, I don't disagree at all with anything you said, but man, navigating Congress as a president right now just looks impossible.
I know. And then the mega base is even breaking apart.
No, it's a mess. It's a mess. And because of what a mess it is, structurally speaking, and this isn't taking a shot at Trump at all, but structurally speaking, you're not going to get really important, good things accomplished in this environment. And I'm not even saying that as a criticism to him, because I don't know if there is anything he could do. Now, granted, I don't think he's made big efforts to try, but I don't know that there's anything he could do that would dampen down the craziness and no matter what he does, they're not going to back what he does.
Well, right? not the Democrats, but he's specifically talking about Republicans. But some of those Republicans, like Senator Lisa Murkowski, she could give two shits whether Trump supported her. She wouldn't probably take an endorsement from Trump anyway.
Right.
So that's not, that threat doesn't work with her. And then if you go on the other side and you've got the real fiscal hawks who are mad at Trump over the size of the one big beautiful bill, they already pissed him off. So they don't care if they piss him off again. He's not going to endorse him anyway.
You know what it feels very disorganized to me, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
And I understand that there's parts of that with Trump that are part of his strength. I think the fact that he's not so married to so many procedures and doing things, there's upside to that. But on the flip side of this, there's so many of these things that are said out loud where I'm thinking to myself, boy, that's a conversation that probably should happen in the Oval.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Behind closed doors, meaning you need to know that you do not need any more ill will out there, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't help you, it doesn't help anything. So to your point, I mean, when you start making threats and calling out people on your own side of the aisle, I don't really understand how that's gonna.
Yeah, well,
it's not gonna bridge any gaps, that's for sure.
No, and I'm disappointed in MAGA for a lot of reasons right now, and I've never considered myself a member of the MAGA movement. I mean, I voted for Donald Trump. I don't regret that vote at all. I agree with the vast majority of what he's doing. But then there's this thing about conservatives, and I think they're just like inherently contrarian. And so, the whole Epstein debacle, totally mishandled. I get it. But now they're like, oh, we're going to abandon Trump over it. It's like, but you do see all the great things he's doing. So we're really going to just like sink the ship over what we may or may not know about Epstein. And then the same with the one big beautiful bill. So I feel like Republicans can be their own worst enemy, and they're going to just crash and burn in the midterms because they can't just come to terms with like, okay, we have some disagreements here and there, but overall Trump is what's best for the country, and we need to keep Republican-controlled Congress.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe in the things that we believe in, you might have some gripes with him idealistically, but you're not going to get any better from the other side.
Right. What are you hoping for?
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the part of it where I'm looking at him going, hey, the other side of it too is, as much as I align with the people that are referred to as fiscal hawks, there is a level of ignorance and a lack of understanding, at least perceived, and I'm just judging them by what they're saying.
Yeah.
That really is frustrating to me because, it's like the old adage of trying to think of a good comp. But when you're like, okay, we need to balance the budget, that sounds awesome, right? Okay, how are we going to do it? Well, we're getting a balanced budget in 2 years. And I look and I'm like, okay, you got a deficit right now that's 7% of your entire economy. They're like, yeah, it's way too high. Agreed. If you balance that in the next 2 years, what do you think the net hit to GDP will be? And they're like, well, private sector is going to come in and fill that gap and profits. And I look at, no, it's not. Not in 2 years, it's not. Okay, what you're probably looking at, if you were to balance the budget over the next 2 years, is you're probably looking at somewhere between a 4 to 5% hit to GDP.
Yeah.
Right? The great financial crisis that drove unemployment rates up to 10% was a decline of 3.8% in GDP. Okay, so quit saying we need to balance the budget unless you're saying that with a plan to do so. When I say a plan to do so, I mean one that doesn't result in 15% unemployment.
Yep.
Right? So even the fiscal hawks, the people who are pushing back against the fiscal hawks, I mean, they can't do math and they can't read. I don't know what to tell you. Those people are out of their minds too. But even the fiscal hawks, I'm looking at them and going, guys, do you know what happens if you just slash the government budget by 25% in a single year when it's already 7%, the deficit's 7% the size of the economy? Like, I just don't feel like anybody's being realistic. You know what I mean? I feel like we're playing geopolitics in a dollhouse, right? Where we're talking about what we want to do and what we think things should be, as opposed to what does it actually take to get them done. And if you're not prepared to sit there and see 10 to 12% unemployment, then quit saying you want to balance do we want a balanced budget? Of course.
Over
right?
time.
But it's unrealistic. And can you imagine if you did that? Can you imagine what would happen culturally and politically in this country if you threw 12% unemployment on top of all the issues that we've currently got?
Yeah, that's how you get President AOC.
Yeah, and that's how you get cities burning. And that's how it's bad news. And that's how you get a hard pivot to the left. And people would be like, well, why would they pivot to the left? That's what got us here. And you're sitting there going, right. And so the person that says they're going to write a check and fix all of it and stick it to the rich guy because he's not paying his fair share, that becomes very, very enticing rhetoric when you've got breadlines and double-digit unemployment.
Yeah, and I think this all takes us back to a conversation we had in the early days of DOGE Watch, which is like the messaging has to be better on all of this.
Right.
We want them to cut spending. There's so much pork in the budget, but let's understand the realities that we're operating under, what balancing the budget looks like over time, the consequences that will happen so everybody's aware and we can decide whether it's worth it or not. And that's just better. It's better for you politically just to lay all the cards on the table. It's better for the American people. So the messaging has been a disaster, frankly.
Yeah.
All right. We talked about AOC. Her pal, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, the chair of the House Progressive Caucus from Washington, something, maybe the only thing you and her will find agreement on. She is working on a bipartisan bill to ban members of Congress from trading stocks.
I mean, the American people should just know that we are working for them, not for our pocketbooks.
I mean, you agree with that? Nancy Pelosi sure doesn't. I love how Nancy's always like, oh yeah, I mean, I'd support that, if they do it, which I'll never let it happen, but I don't know. What do you think it's going to take to do it? Because members of Congress on both sides, there are some who don't want to see that for personal reasons.
I don't know. There's so much, first of all, 100% it should happen.
Yeah.
I think that they should be able to put money into index funds.
Okay.
Right. Which are just the copy of the stock market. So you're not favoring one stock over the other. I don't think they should be allowed to transact in individual issues. I think you should go a step further. And I think that any industry that they were involved in regulating, I think they should be barred from that industry for 5 to 10 years after leaving office.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things where, am I in favor of this law? Yes. However, it not in and of itself. Once again, this needs to be part of broader reform. The more people that understand, the vast majority of these people getting into office today are doing it for completely different reasons as people got involved in the past. And it's to enrich themselves. And it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, and they both do it. I mean, you look at even Elizabeth Warren, who's like one of the chief tax the rich. And frankly, Congresswoman Jayapal is not doing too shabby herself. So you look at these people like AOC's personal wealth has skyrocketed since she became a member of Congress. And members of Congress, I think, depending on if you're in the House or the Senate, like maybe around $170,000 a year, and then they leave like multimillionaires, right? So they all do it. So it sounds nice to occasionally say, oh, we need to, tighten the reins, but none of them really want to. And I would argue there's no side of the aisle that's going to overwhelmingly support something like that. I mean, even Bernie Sanders has like 4 houses or something, and he's worth millions of dollars. Now, some of that's because he wrote books. I'm fine with that. You want to write a book and people care enough about what you have to say to buy it, I don't care. I don't care if you're a member of Congress or whatever it is. But if you're enriching yourself off of insider knowledge about something that's coming, then that's clearly a no-no.
It is shocking to me that there already hasn't been a bill regarding congressional people trading their own accounts.
Yeah.
Just shocking, because no constituency in the country is going to be against that, right? But just like they don't get that done, you don't hear anything about the carried interest loophole. And then they're constantly using it to conflate reality with guys like me, where they're like, oh, the rich finance guy. And I go, wait a second, man. I paid 43% last year in taxes. Okay, I'm paying my fair share. I'm not Buffett. I'm not paying 18. I'm not getting paid like it's a cap gains. So the question is, don't look at me. Go look at your billionaire funders and explain to me what your relationship is with them and why you're not coming out against this carried interest loophole.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just all kabuki theater.
Well, because you make the point that there isn't a political consequence at the polls to be paid for doing that. There is no political consequence where a voter is like, I'm not going to vote for you because you voted to stop allowing members of Congress to trade stocks. Like, right. That is like a universally supported issue. So you have to wonder, if they're not concerned about the political ramifications, then what ramifications are they concerned about?
They're concerned about
right.
Well, they're concerned about not being able to trade on inside information.
Yeah.
I mean, as a guy that manages money, if I had a source of guaranteed stock picks and you wanted to turn it off, I mean, Nancy Pelosi's putting up 45 to 50% returns per year.
Yeah.
So either she's the greatest hedge fund manager in history, or she's crooked. There's a couple Republicans putting up 38, 40% returns per year.
Yeah.
No history. Like, this is either the greatest collection of stock traders in history assembled under one roof, or they're crooks. It's that simple.
Wow, that's a tough one. I don't know. I don't know which it is. Who knows? Who could know, really? All right, it's a good place to end. Zach Abraham still bullish on Doge? Is Doge?
Absolutely.
All right,
Zero
cool.
downside, man. Keep it going.
Love it. All right, see you next week.